Welcome everyone to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. My name is Colin, and I am your host. Today's guest is Chase Hollmer. We've been trying to do this for at least a couple months now, so I finally got him here. Everybody's been sick, so that's always fun. It's that time of year. But yeah, I appreciate you being here, man. I'll give you an opportunity just to start out because you're very active with your career and doing a couple different things. So it'd probably be easier for you to introduce yourself, and I kind of like to let people introduce themselves and just give the listeners a little background, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I am sports performance coach. By day, that's nonstop full-time job. So I'm training anywhere from middle school, high school, college. I even got a couple guys that are trying to go pro as well. So personal trainer, sports performance coach. I have my general population clients, my athletes. And then also I do like online personal training as well. So I got people like all over the country that basically like my training style, like what I specialize in or whatever. And so that's my job. And then recently, anyone that's been following me on social media, I've been running way too far of distances. So I've been doing what I call a hybrid athlete, which is like a blend of like running and lifting. So that's that keeps me busy. So
Yeah, that keeps you very busy. You basically live at the gym.
Yeah. So that's basically I think why I started running, because I'm like I can't spend any more time at the gym.
Yeah, you can.
I need to
spend.
spend.
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, so I like to throw this out there because it's like a thing that a lot of people don't know. So everyone was like, who's the most famous person you've ever trained? So I trained Big Mike from The Blind Side when I lived in Tampa a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Big Mike the actor.
How long were you down there?
So like 3 years.
Okay.
So like I trained I've trained some professional athletes as well, some teams as well, but that's always the one that like everyone loves to hear is like Big Mike from The Blind Side.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's cool. So what got you started into this career? Because I remember talking to you a while back, and you were like, I didn't really know what I was gonna do, and you just kind of like, and then it just kind of evolved from there. I'm trying to remember this story, but it's been many years since we talked
so
about
it's
this.
I swear this is a story that's like way too long, so we'll keep it short.
Yeah.
But basically, I went to college and I had like I'm gonna be a college professor. Like I loved school, I enjoyed it, but I also thought there was a side of it that was like a little too easy in my field. Basically, I always loved the fitness side of it, but it was just like there were some things I thought were like too easy, right? Like I just thought there was like a certain standard I would be like, okay, like how is this person gonna be, like a personal trainer or this, but I saw there was like I don't even say personal trainer because you don't need a degree for that, but people in my industry, it was just like a lot of class. I'm like, to me the college like education like kind of loses its value because I'm like, I know every single kid in this class is going to pass this class, right? And to me, like, not that that's I mean like they should or whatever, but I'm like, there's some kids that are going to put in no effort, right? And like I don't want to be like I was going to be some tough like college professor, but I was just like, I thought there were some things where it was like, I really enjoy this, but I think it should be a little bit harder, right? It should be like, it should push you a little bit more. Well, then I got to grad school and realized that, teaching is such a small portion of being a college professor, and that's really what I wanted to do. And so I was doing a ton of research, and I'm like, I absolutely do not want to do research. I do not want to sit by a desk all day. So basically I started getting into like coaching. So I started coaching wrestling and started doing some more like sports performance training, strength and conditioning. And I was living in Tampa at the time, and I was basically like, you know what? I want nothing to do with research. I love helping people. And so then that just kind of evolved into I also love to kind of do my own thing. So I was like, I want to figure out how to do this on my own. And I feel like if I do this on my own.
Once you get a taste of that.
Yeah, so I was like, I think if I do it on my own, I can make a living on it. But yeah, it basically got out of necessity. Like I want to be a college professor, and I like realized I hated like to sit behind a desk all day and like do research. And then I was like, well, I can still be in the fitness side, the strength and conditioning, that side. And so that's when it came into I want to basically help athletes chase their goals. But I had zero intention of doing it, and when I was an undergrad, I swore I would never train people in person, and here we are, and I love it. So
it's funny the things that you say you never do, and then you do them in all aspects of
Yeah.
life.
Oh, yeah. So I said I would never run ever after high school, and here I am running.
Oh,
you know?
dude, I said that for the longest time, and I haven't done it outside, but I've been running on the treadmill. I'm like, oh, this is actually, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I've never gotten the full-on runner's high that people talk about.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm not going far enough. I don't know. I have a joke about that I cannot repeat on here. But yeah, the whole runner's high thing is just I've heard about it, but I felt better from doing it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like so it's funny you say that because I also never experienced that. I was like, I ran cross country a little bit in high school.
You felt like you wanted to die.
I'm like, dude, I want to die, right?
Yeah.
I want to die. So I started getting into running from like a health perspective or whatever, right? Like I'm like, I want to lift. You know, I'm getting into my 30s. Like I'm like, I just want to be healthier or whatever, right? Yeah. So I started running purely from a health perspective. Like I'm like, I need that cardiovascular exercise. I lift, but I just want that cardiovascular exercise. And so I started running whatever, and then like 10 minutes turned into 20, 30, and then next thing I know, I'm like running for an hour at a time with something I would never do. And what I noticed is like I would go and run, and I would run in the mornings, and then like the middle of my day is kind of like where I do all my planning, my social media, any of my like programming I do for my athletes or my online clients. And I started notice when I would do that after I ran like long distances, I was in like a really like creative mental space where I was like, I was saying this, I was like, yeah, like this is just like, I was telling like one of my buddies, like, dude, I'm just like so productive, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, dude, that's like the runner's high, or like that's that feeling where you're just like euphoric feeling or whatever. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I've never had it, but I love it, right? So like I've kind of experienced that a little bit more.
You just feel like more clear-headed and more focused.
Yeah, I think it was just one of those things where I think like I just had an hour where I was thinking about anything and everything, right? And I'm like exercising, and then I get done, and I feel like I can really focus on whatever task that I wanted to do. So it was like something I never experienced until recently, but it's made me more productive, which I can't complain about.
ADHD people.
I mean, honestly, so that's I feel like I'm kind of all over the place, but yeah.
That's awesome. And then, yeah, we talked about this earlier, but yeah, that kind of brings us into the mental benefits of working out in general. I mean, whether it's running or strength training or however you're working out, just moving in general. And you say you've seen a lot of benefits probably on your end and with some of the people you train, right?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it as like it's exercise, but it's like for me, I look at it like it's just really simple, right? Like anytime you accomplish like a task you don't want to do, right? You're like,
you feel better.
You feel better afterwards, right? You're like, honestly, I ran today. Like I absolutely did not want to run, right?
Yeah.
And I did it, and I'm like, okay, I feel better, right? And I just think it's something to, there's obviously, we know like you get different endorphins and stuff, and there's different chemical processes that are going on that are beneficial. But I mean, I think I see it all the time, right? Like I have one of my clients, and kind of same thing. Like he, like one day he was like, do you ever market to like young professionals or business professionals? Like, well, like I do. I was like, I do, like I'm always, looking for new clients or whatever. But I'm like, honestly, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm mostly athlete, so I never do it. He's like, dude, when I work out with you, he's like, I probably make X number of dollars more per day, just from training with you, because he's like, I'm just so like locked in, and he's like, I don't have to think about working out anymore. He's like, I did it first thing in the morning. He's like, that's just one check that I've already done for the day, right? He's like, so I feel like I worked out at 6 a.m. I'm home by 7. He's like, I'm saying bye to my kids, and he's like, I've already done so many things I need to do for the day, so now I'm like, now I can focus on work or whatever, right? So I think there's that aspect of, but even just like, right, you feel good afterwards, right? Like I think it's just like, and it doesn't matter what you do. Like I said, if it's lifting, it's running, it's walking. Like I'm like one of the biggest proponents of going on walks, right?
Love me a walk, man.
And I just think there's like
my old man walk around.
Yeah, like I call them hot boy walks.
Oh yeah,
I call them hot boy walks. It's like you're like I'm just gonna go for a walk because I want to go for a walk. But yeah, I just think like I see so many benefits, and then you start getting into like the like a little bit longer, like the confidence stuff, right? Like like you get people that come into the gym and they're intimidated by it, and and then they're anxious about coming to the gym, and then they come in and they're like, they start getting confident where they're like, they're more confident to come in and like, I'm gonna crush it today, right? So I think there's just so many benefits that you can go on and on about, but like, as it's just like anytime you do something you don't want to do, is like you feel a reward afterwards, and then there's just like the health benefits on top of it, right? There's the physical side of it, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, okay, I'm being healthier. So I think it's one of those things, like not only are you accomplishing like a hard task, but you're also making yourself healthier and making yourself better from a physical and health standpoint as well.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a bonus for me because I started doing it for the mental reasons.
Yeah.
For the mental health reasons. Because I knew that it would make me feel better because I just was told by so many different people. And a little bit on the physical side, I put on a little bit of weight. I was in a relationship for a couple of years and just kind of was like,
Oh, dude,
let the weight pack on.
Dude, I've been there as well. Like you're just like,
I don't need to. I don't need to impress anybody. You know?
It's like, you want to go to dinner and have some wine. Like I'm down for that. It's like, I feel that. No, I mean it's true. It's like we all been like, I don't need to go work out.
Yeah. And I also had, like you were talking about, the intimidation factor from the gym, and that stems back from assumption.
Yeah.
Like from high school, because when I was in high school up until my senior year, I was always like the scrawny kid, but I was fucking tiny.
Oh yeah.
And I would go. So when I would go to the gym, like I'd be in the gym, and I remember the Bentler brothers.
Oh yeah.
They were just massive.
Yeah,
and they're just tearing it up in the gym, and I go in there and I could barely lift the bar.
Yeah, you're like, I can barely lift the bar.
And I'm just getting roasted left and right. I'm just like, this place sucks.
Yeah.
And I never went back. And I would go through times where I would do the classic join in January.
Yeah.
Forget to cancel and stop going like in like March.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
And I've done that so many times, and I finally was just like, I'm going. I did the no commitment thing at Planet Fitness. So I'm like, I know me, just in case,
Yeah.
If I don't commit, I cancel at any time. And then I just have been going ever since consistently. I don't go every day, but my thing is like, if I at least go 2 or 3 times a week, that's a win for me.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, and it's I totally like. I think it's really, this is me, like, I'm like so different than I feel like a lot of people. I like always say it's simpler than people make it out to be, right? Like, I think people in my industry, like, they make everything so difficult, right? And it's like they're looking for the perfect exercise, the perfect workout program, and the reality,
just doing something.
It's consistency, right? Like, it is just doing something, right? And like, it sounds so bad, but it's like, I mean, like, literally, it's like I go back to, it's like, if you've ever been hungover, right? It's like, you're like, dude, I can sit in bed, but if I just go and I like get up and walk for 10 minutes, I'm probably going to feel better, right? You know what I mean? So it's like,
at least a little bit.
Yeah, at least a little bit. So I like look at the gym, it's like, I don't care if you go in for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or 30 minutes, but like, if you just go and do something, I promise you're going to feel better. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like so silly to be like, oh, you go in the gym for 20 minutes, right? But it's like, if you go in 20 minutes, this week, and then you're in 15 minutes the next week, it's like, if you're consistent, you build, like, that's when you can start. But I think, like, so many people are like, I'm going to go gung-ho, I'm going to go, it's like, that's really easy. But
I started off real easy.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do some simple stuff.
Yeah.
Just to get in there. I'm not going to try to, like, do anything crazy. And then I was just consistent. And then all of a sudden, like, a few months later, my friends are like, dude, your arms are huge.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't realize it. I was just like, and then I was like, okay. So I've gotten that confidence, and it made me think of this. There's this dude who started going after right around when I started going. I see him all the time now. Not all the time, but I see him somewhat regularly. Every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, that guy, and he's like a completely different person.
Yeah.
He walks around like he was in there, like, because he had a guy helping him the first time. I don't know if he was a trainer or if it was just a friend of his. I don't really know the situation. At Planet Fitness, it's just
it's a free for all.
It's a free for all.
It's a free for all, right?
I love the people watching sometimes, but I saw him coming, and I could tell he was just getting started, and now he like walks around the gym.
He's got that confidence. Yeah.
I'm just like, Hell yeah, dude. This is awesome. Like, and I've seen that dude evolve.
Yeah, and I feel like what's hard is like you just said it, like you're like other people notice it, right? But like
Sometimes you don't.
you don't even notice it sometimes, right? And like
Yeah.
that's what I tell my because obviously like a part of my job is like
Motivation.
you're motivational, right? And like I say this like you got to bring your clients down. Sometimes they like freak out. They're like blah blah blah. I'm gonna be honest with you. I should have told you this, but I'm like you were lifting the other day, and I was like, where'd that vein come from? You know what I mean? Like you have those clients or whatever that, but like they don't even see it. But I'm like, I see you every single day, and I'm like, I didn't even notice it out of nowhere. I'm like, holy cow, where'd that come from, right?
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things I think people, obviously like so much. Like I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of people are like, so much of why you start to work out is the physical or the
Yeah.
mental, but then you start for the mental, get the physical. You start for the physical, get the mental
Yeah.
side of it or whatever, right? But that's just it. Is like I'm probably going to make some trainers mad, but it's like honestly the number one thing to benefit yourself both physically and mentally from the exercise standpoint is like consistency, right? Like that's
Yeah.
it's not you got to do A, B, and C. It's like no, you just got to start doing A. So
Yeah, it's like the same thing we were talking about earlier. We were talking about social media stuff because you've been really ramping up the social media stuff. And you said you were going to post consistently for so many days.
yeah, 120 days.
How many days are you at right now?
I think we're about
Halfway?
at 100, 105 or
Okay.
somewhere around in there. So, but yeah, it's like it was like first off you're like okay, I'm jacked up, I'm excited, right? And so it's like the first month was honestly kind of a breeze, right? The first month was kind of a breeze, and then you start to be like, this is actually I'm like coming out, don't have any ideas, this is terrible, I just want to go to bed, and I forgot to post today, and then like you kind of get over that hump. So it's just like it's kind of going, but it's like I said, it's just doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like sometimes the things that you do, like, and it can be any workouts, like I only have 30 minutes to get a workout in, and or like the social media side, it's like this is gonna be a really crappy post, like no one's gonna like this forever, and you do it, and then you have someone that's like, oh, dude, this is exactly what I was looking for, right? And
It's insane.
it's insane, and like I think social media is such a cool thing because you never know like who you can help or affect or is going to see that. And it's like we were talking about, I said views are cool, but it's like when you share something with value and someone saves it, right? Or like shares it and you're like, oh, they like found value, so they shared it with one of their friends or they saved it so they come back to later. And so that's pretty cool to like see that side of it as
Yeah,
well.
because I've had stuff get a bunch of views and then there's like no comments or no interaction. It's like, yeah, the algorithm just pushed this for a little while, but it's like, where was the value?
Yeah.
So the value is more important. Yeah, if I get a couple comments or even messages that say like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed this or got something out of it, that's way better.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I want to get into one of the questions that we got on Instagram. So one of the questions was, and I've had at least one friend do this, and that's the 75 hard. Is it a challenge?
Yeah, so
okay.
it's like a fitness. I think it's like a overall. I wouldn't even call it a fitness challenge, but like overall like well-being, like total.
Yeah, you have to. It's a diet too, right?
Yeah, it's wild. It's like I think it's like 75 days, and it's like you work out twice a day, every day for 45 minutes, right? It's like twice a day, every day for 45 minutes. Clearly, I haven't done this because I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like you read 10 pages a day.
It's a whole thing.
You like take a picture, like it's a really cool concept because you're like sitting there. It's like full body. It's like a total like not I shouldn't say full body. It's like physical, mental, like emotional. I think it's like no alcohol, like no cheat meals, like your straight diet for like 75 days straight. So that's basically the gist of it.
Discipline, a lot of discipline.
Yeah, a lot of discipline. My thoughts on it, I think it's a great concept, right? Like I get the cool concept of it, but I'm also someone that believes in like you should be able to have like I don't want to say fun, or you should be able to enjoy yourself a little bit, right? Like I think a part of why like part of the reason why I feel like I've always been drawn to working out, like I just like enjoy food or whatever, right? So like I eat pretty good during the week, right? I would say probably better than most people during the week. And then that allows me, if my friends want to be like, hey, let's go grab pizza, right? I don't have to feel bad about grabbing pizza or whatever, right? So,
exactly.
like, whereas I think the concept is really good. And I think it's been good for a lot of people. But, like, for me personally, I just think it's, like, a little, like, overkill, right? Because, like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, I look, it's, like, 45 minutes, like, obviously is what I do. 45 minutes, like, twice a day, like, that's, like, a lot for most people. If you have kids, you have a full-time job,
that's
like,
a lot.
and one of them has to be outside, and it's like, dude, do you really want to work out outside when it's 15 degrees and it's snowing? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? And, like, but it's, and it's not just a workout. It can be, like, a 45-minute walk. It's just, like, physical activity or whatever. But I think it's really good. But, I mean, it is an extreme challenge. So I think if you're up for that, right, it's awesome. But I think, like, most people don't necessarily need to. But, I think the whole, like, premise behind it is, like, if you only make it 21 days in, you're already a way, quote unquote, like, in a way better place than you were before the challenge, right? It's like one of those things where it's kind of like it's so gung ho that, like, you're like, oh, well, if you can do 21 days, and I think I see a lot of people, you get a lot of people that make it like 21 days, right? And then they're like, oh, I fell off the wagon. So they're like, oh, I'm going to try it again. It's like, well, next thing you know, it's like you've done 2 months and you've only had one, quote unquote, like, cheat meal or got off your diet or whatever. It's like, you're probably going to be a totally different individual in the sense that, like, both physically and, probably mentally as well when you're done with it. Yeah. But from a purely, like, a fitness, physical, like, like, trainer standpoint, like, I would never have any of my clients do that, right? Yeah. But I think it's a great concept and great premises, but it's not something that I think is, like, necessary, right? Like, I don't know, like, I just look at, like, say you do 75 hard, you start after Thanksgiving, you're like, so I can't enjoy Christmas, I can't enjoy Christmas with my family or whatever, right? It's like I ran super early on Christmas morning or whatever, so I could spend the rest of the day with my family. It's like, if I'm on 75 hard, it's like, well, I either got to stop what I'm doing with my family and go get a second workout in, or I have to, like, wait till everything's done and get a workout in at, like, 10:30. Like, I don't want to do that, right? Yeah. So I think it's a good concept and good premises, but I think it's a little extreme for most people, basically.
Oh, yeah, it's almost, like, militant at some point.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, like, that's, I mean, let's be honest, like, that's what it is. Like, it's, I think it's a polarizing, and I don't really know the story behind it, but I think the guy that started it, like, he owns a supplement brand, right? So I think there's a little bit of, like, you're selling, like, a product and lifestyle type of thing as well with it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not, like, necessarily why he started it, but I think that it is, like, it's kind of like a gung-ho, like, lifestyle type of thing, and I'm just like, I like to have more fun. You know what I mean? It's like, I like to enjoy myself a little bit, It's
exactly. It's like, what's the point then? Like,
yeah, it's like, I feel like I work pretty hard, but it's like, with that, I'm like, am I allowed to sleep in? Like, am I allowed to sleep in someday if I want to sleep in or what?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, but
yeah. Can't be beating yourself up over stuff like little things like that.
Yeah, that's like, actually, that is, like, exactly the point. Is like, I'm someone that I'm like, if you had a bad lunch, like, you don't need to have a bad dinner, right? And it's like, you're just like, if you didn't work out today, no big deal, you can just work out tomorrow, right? Like, that's like, I actually read this in a book, and it's pretty cool. So my uncle actually wrote this book. Had, like, a serious, like, survived, like, a pretty crazy stroke when he was, like, 35, 36 years old. He was, like, a high-level, like, triathlete. And he was, like, I just love this quote, and I've never really heard it, but it was something like, in his book, it was like, just because you had a bad day today doesn't mean you have to have, like, a bad day tomorrow, right? It's, like, kind of the premises of it.
Yeah, it's a very simple statement, but it's powerful.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know how he said it, but it's like, same thing with diet. It's like, just because you didn't work out today doesn't mean you have to beat yourself up tomorrow. And I think that's kind of the thing. Is like, I think a lot of people be like, oh, I failed the challenge. Like, it's like, no, like, you still crushed it. Like, if you were even attempting the challenge, you're probably doing better than 95% of people out there, right? You attempted it. So it's like, it's okay. Just, like, keep at it tomorrow, right? So I think there's times where you can get discouraged about stuff, and there's just, like, no reason to get discouraged about it. Yeah. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, it's tough, especially if you hold yourself to like this high expectation or unrealistic expectation. And I know some people are really, really extreme about
Yeah.
like if they didn't do something exactly right,
Yeah.
they're just beating themselves up over
Yeah.
it. It's like, how much time are you spending in your head? And I do it
Yeah.
all
Oh,
the time. With
absolutely.
just the dumbest things. I'm just like, why am I still thinking about this?
Yeah.
It's like not even a thing. Like it's not hurting anyone.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
you,
Yeah.
you're thinking about it
Yeah.
all the time.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, let's be honest. We all beat yourself up about it. But I like always tell my clients like, hey, you went out, you got drinks with your friends or whatever. I'm like, you're probably you had a blast, right? I'm like, you're in a great, because I think a lot of people like social health is like a real thing, right? Like if like meaningful relationships or whatever, right?
Oh,
And it's
absolutely.
like, dude, it's like my clients, I feel like they always feel bad. It's like, I'm like so different too. It's like, I feel like most trainers are like, you missed your workout. And I'm like, dude, you had fun with your friends. I was able to sleep in an extra half hour. Like, we both won, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, we'll just get back on the train, tomorrow, right? Because, like, most people I feel like that train with me, especially my general population, athletes, obviously totally different. It's a totally different ball game. But my general population, like my adult clients, it's like they just want to have a happier, healthier, like more meaningful life or whatever, right? So, they just want to stay healthy to be able to play with their grandkids or whatever, right? So it's like if they miss one workout, it's okay. We can get back at it tomorrow, basically.
What's your oldest client? How old?
So I'm actually not, my oldest client's not too old, but I would say my oldest client right now is probably like 65, 66 probably.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so
Quite
like
the range though.
yeah, so I have anywhere from I think my youngest right now is I have like a sixth graders, and then all the way up to like 65, 66. Yeah.
Is there? I always heard when I was younger, like you don't want. I think it turned out to be a myth. Like if you start lifting too young, it'll stunt your growth. Is that a thing?
No, that's basically been like thrown
That's
out
been
the
debunked?
yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean but that being said, like there also is like I think my personal belief, and I think there is some science behind this. Like you don't want a ton of like you're not gonna stunt your growth for one, but I think like for me it's like how much is a fifth grader really gonna enjoy like lifting weights hard, right? So it's like
Yeah.
my fifth graders coming to me and we're playing games, right? Like we're playing essentially tag or, we were the other day I had some fifth graders and we had like a weight bench or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they were trying to go in a circle underneath the bench. So like they're like bear hugging it, their hands are wrapped around, and they're like climbing under the bench and then getting back on. It's like they're using full body strength to do this or whatever, right? But I'm not putting them under like a barbell where they're like worried about technique or whatever. They're having fun. Yeah, they're having fun, and getting stronger. But I mean, no, like, and there's also like, there's probably a time. There is a time and a place where we do, what we call like strength movements or whatever. But even then, it's mostly like technique. But yeah, like when we were in high school, it's like I still get this. Like parents will be like, they're like, hey, I really don't want my kid to do this, this, or this, and it's like, well, they can do that they should be doing that now, right? Like, like I get kids in even like eighth graders, parents like, we don't want them lifting at all. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be honest, if you don't want them lifting, like they're gonna get to high school and everyone's gonna be bigger, faster, stronger. And so if you don't want that, but like all these kids are going up against are doing that, right? So, but yeah, I feel like we very much grew up in like the generation of that's like full of like lifting myths, like supplement myths. Like we just we grew up in a weird time that like supplements were becoming popular, like strength and conditioning for like youth athletes was becoming popular, and now it's just like so crazy and insane right now.
Well, there's a lot of supplements that are like, that were coming out like that were like more like fat burning.
Yeah.
Ridiculously marketed stuff, and there's still a lot of that out there. But yeah, that's something actually that I would like to ask you about is like, because I've seen you post about it, is different supplements that you take that have worked for you. I know I've seen you talk about magnesium being a big one.
Yeah.
Electrolytes.
Yeah.
Obviously. Anything else that's...
So yeah, like electrolytes, I'm like the biggest believer, and this is probably something more recently that I become a big believer in, just because obviously like we grew up in like that salt's bad for you, right? Like sodium is bad for you, whatever, right? And basically there's like a lot more research that's coming out to say like actually you need like way more salt and electrolytes in your diet or whatever, right? And as long as you're working out to some degree, like that extra amount of sodium is going to be beneficial, as opposed to like back in the day, it was like, oh, well, this is going to be bad for your heart health and that kind of stuff. So electrolytes are a big one. Magnesium, like you said, is, I think that's like something like everyone should be taking. And I think it's something that's simple, is like, it's pretty interesting to think about. It's like the more like stressed out you are, the lower your magnesium levels can actually like go or whatever, right? So I think it's like something to think about, is like, and that can be anything, like physical, mental, emotional stress. It's like, so it's like if you're at a period where you're having that type of stress or whatever, like your magnesium can be lower. So that's something like I always recommend to everyone, just basically to stay on top of it, right? And it's magnesium involved in like hundreds of thousands of processes in the body. So it's like one of those things I'm like, why not take it?
Like, is there really any negative
No,
side effects to it?
No, like there's like obviously with anything, if you take too much of it, right? Like,
yeah, it might
but like,
cause problems.
like some of the stuff, it's like, okay, if you take too much of it, like you might have gastrointestinal discomfort,
sick,
but
yeah.
it's like, if you follow the label, like you're going to be fine. So magnesium, vitamin D, we live in Iowa, right? It's not sunny, it's cold, and that's something that like it's pretty crazy. I like to pat my back on this one a little bit, but like it's crazy. I get a lot of clients, like some of my older clients still be like, yeah, I've just been feeling like really sick or whatever, or I've just been like no energy, whatever, like whatever it is, and they're like, I'm going in to get my blood work done or blood tested, and I'm like, see what your vitamin D levels are, right? Whoa. And no joke, like I'm like, say I've had 5 clients that have gone and got their blood tested, and like for the same thing or whatever, like various reason or whatever, and I'm like, hey, check to see what your vitamin D levels are. They're always low, like no matter what. And I think there's even like a much higher amount that you could probably take than what, like, like if you get a vitamin D from the store, it's gonna say take 1 serving a day or whatever, right?
I get it prescribed.
Yeah.
I take 50,000.
Yeah, like
once a month.
Yeah.
And it just stores.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like like no joke, it's like pretty crazy. Like this,
50, I forgot what I was measured, looms or 50,000.
Is it IUs or whatever? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's like crazy. Like I was talking to someone, and there's a physical therapist that's out there, and he thinks like everyone should be getting like, I don't remember. This is so long ago that I read this, or whatever. But he was like, he like is a believer, like he like doesn't wear sunscreen or whatever, like doesn't wear sunscreen, and he like thinks like everyone should be having like a crazy amount of vitamin D because it like is so good for you, whatever. And this is like makes me sound wild, but I like feel it's like something to it. Like I feel better when I get a sunburn, right? There's like a perfect level of like I'm like sunburned, but I'm not like, ow, that hurts, where I'm like I feel like really like calm and a really good like mental state, because it's like I don't know if it's like I was out in the sun, but I was like it related to the vitamin D that you're getting from sunlight. So I'm like a huge believer in vitamin D. And then another big one is fish oil, right? There's just a lot of like health benefits from that. And I think the biggest thing from that is just like a quality like brand of that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Like I usually, like my rule of thumb with people is like, and it's like hard to say because sometimes it doesn't matter, sometimes it does matter, but like usually, like I say, if you can get it at like Walmart, like if you can get it at Walmart, probably just don't get it, right? Like just because there's so much, it's usually cheaper, but it's like you might have to take 6 times the amount that of the Walmart version of the Walmart brand. Whereas if you get like a decent like name brand like fish oil, you only have to take like 1 serving a day, right? So it's like there's that can get a little bit into it. And then one of the other ones, and I think that with all the research coming out, like I think almost maybe everyone should be taking it, but is creatine monohydrate. So there's a lot of cool. I had a female client of mine actually message me, and was basically like, would you recommend like creatine monohydrate for, like, a 40, 45, 50-year-old female? And I was like, well, actually, like a lot of the research is coming out that it has like a ton of like neuroprotective, like mechanisms and way that it might like help with like memory and cognitive decline, and obviously we know like the physical side that it helps with that.
Yeah, because that's all I've taken it for.
Yeah, so it's actually like come out with like they think in football players that it might help prevent concussions if like football players it's like wild. I haven't really, that was when I was in grad school I was digging way deeper on like research on supplements. But that's like a lot of the new research is coming out that it has like a ton of like neuroprotective and cognitive benefits, which I think it's cool as someone that's like always taking it from a physical standpoint.
So is it something you should take, like you can take without working out?
Yeah, I would say like you know what I mean, that's something where you absolutely can take it from now. You absolutely cannot, or absolutely could take it.
So that's the only time I've taken it is before I work out.
Yeah, so you could take it, like I tell people if they take creatine monohydrate, I just say like once a day, right? So like you can take it before your workout, you can take it after your workout, which are the two quote unquote best times, I would say. But like if you're not going to work out, like you could take it in the morning as well.
Is it like the 5 milligrams or whatever?
Yeah, you don't need to load it anything crazy. That was like the old school. I just say like 5 grams is a serving.
5 grams. Sorry.
Yeah, 5 grams is serving. Like you can take that and you can just, like I said, you can put it in juice. You can just dry scoop it, drink some water, whatever. But yeah, that's like something nowadays that like I said, I haven't really dove in the research on it recently, but I just know that there's a lot more research that like, is it one of those things where if you've never taken it before and you don't work out, like, do you really need to take it? Like, no, you probably don't need to. But like for me, as someone that like has taken it forever, I'm like, this gives me a reason to 100% keep taking it, even if I'm not working out, right? So, just with those like added benefits to it, absolutely. So those are kind of the main staples. Usually, I say as supplements, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right?
Yeah.
But those are the staples, and there's some stuff that I think if you do take and you need it or you're deficient in it, like you can definitely see like noticeable benefits. Like I noticed that with electrolytes when I started doing like a good brand of like that has
another thing I haven't found the great brand for that yet.
Yeah, so I use this is a shameless plug, but I use Element is the name of it.
Okay.
And it actually has like an insane amount of sodium and electrolytes in it. And like you basically feel like you're drinking like flavored salt water. But I notice it, like I'm one that like pays pretty close attention. Like I feel like I notice like,
is something you drink like first thing?
Yeah, I drink it first thing in the morning. Like I wake up pretty early, so I'll like fill up whatever size water bottle, right? Like whether it's like a 16 ounce or sometimes it's bigger, so I have like more flavored water throughout the day. Just gets me to drink more. But it's something when I noticed I did it, it was like, it was like maybe it was a placebo effect for me or whatnot. But like I noticed like a couple like days in or like a weekend, I'm like, I've been feeling really good lately. Like, and then was it because I was drinking more water? Just because I drinking more water and that's why I felt better, or was it from the electrolytes?
Both, maybe?
Yeah, so it's something that I'm like become a pretty big fan on, and I think there's just a little bit benefits, and obviously there still is that like you can obviously have like again like I said too much sodium, but like if you're working out, you're sweating a pretty good amount, like you should be good basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another question we got on Instagram that I wanted to ask you was, I don't know how you're going to answer this one, but it's best bang for your buck workout. I don't know if they meant just like one workout or like a routine. It wasn't a very detailed question, but I'll let you answer that however you want.
So I'm gonna be really cringy right now, and I'm gonna say the one you can stay the most consistent with, right? Yeah. That's the most bang for your buck one, right? Is the one you can stay consistent with. But no, that's like a loaded question, right? I think for me that would mean something, right? That you're doing some type of strength training and some type of cardiovascular exercise, right? So however you can get that done, right? But I mean, for me, I think most people can, like, if you're looking at like, okay, I want the physical side, I want the mental side, right? Like we talk about being active every day, just like going on walks stuff. But like if you're like going in the gym, I think most people can get pretty darn good results going in like 3 days a week, using some type of lifting program, right? And that can be, as simple as like 5 to 8 exercises a day, full body. Like I'm bang for your buck, full body, 5 to 8 exercises a day, and that's whether you're, however you structure it, but you can do, you could do just your strength training and then do some cardiovascular exercise, or you can combine the two, right? But I really think it's going to come down to, you know, doing a combination of some type of strength training, some type of cardiovascular exercise, because they both have different benefits, but they both help each other, right? I think that's something that I've learned personally, right? Is like I used to be only strength training, right? And then I think a lot of people are like only cardio, like they're runners, right? Like, and they might like kind of dabble, right?
Yeah.
And what I've found is like when I'm lifting when I'm lifting and doing like running, I actually feel better when I go to lift. Like I feel better when I go to lift. I have less aches and pains.
So cardio first.
No, so just like
Or does it matter?
I would say personal preference, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, like I used to be the old school, like, oh, you got to lift and then do cardio, but like, you know, if your goal is to be better at running, like you probably should run first, right? Or if your goal is like, you know, or if you're like, oh, I want to get stronger, like you should probably lift first or whatever, right? So like, yeah, I mean, like 3 days a week, a combination of both, I think you really can't go wrong with, you know, like I said, a little bit of lifting, a little bit of cardio, and, you know, like you can have one day that you go, you know, this is what a really simple way is, like one day you go really heavy, right? And one day you go medium, and one day might be light, and that light day is also the day that you go really hard in your cardio, right? So bang for your buck can go so many different ways, right? Is it like the most time efficient, or is it the most results with the least, you know what I mean? So,
or maybe like, let's rephrase it. Like, what's your favorite go-to workout? Like one workout, like one specific, like say strength training, like your favorite type of lift.
So, this is tough. So I've switched this. So like I said, I think we talked about. So currently I'm like a full body guy. Like I'm like a full body guy. I'm like a full body guy because I just think you can get so much done. And so like for me, like right now my current it's switched up a little bit just because I've started training for an actual race. But for the longest time, like the past like 6 months has been like 3 days of lifting and like 3-4 days of like running. So I'd lift on some days and then run on some days, but one single workout it's for me would be I would say probably I would do a full body lift that takes me 30 minutes, and then I would go run for 30 minutes. That would be like if I could only do 1 hour workout 3 days a week, that's personally what I would do, right? And it can be I mean, you can just pick any, really the exercises are endless that you can pick, but yeah, for me it would probably be 30 minutes of strength training where I'm focused on getting stronger. And then afterwards, I would do 30 minutes of some type of cardio, running, biking. For me, it's been running. So, yeah.
Okay. One thing that's gotten really popular that you've probably seen me post about, and also Scott Stowe's been doing, is polar plunge.
Okay.
Have you done the polar plunge at all?
So I have, but it's been probably been like 5 or 6 years since I've actually done like a cold plunge. Like I've done like a cold plunge. I mean, I love them. I love them. Like I
did one last night, and you were talking about earlier, like trying to talk yourself out of stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it, and I was like, but earlier in the day, I was like, I'm gonna do it, and then I went ahead and did it, and I was like, I'm so glad.
Yeah, no, I love them. Like I actually like I got attacked on social media, like not like actually attacked, but like jokingly, because I put up a post that I was like, you don't need a cold plunge, you don't need a sauna, you don't need some crazy supplements, you need to like exercise for 30 minutes, right? Like that was a post, and I had like all of these people like were like I disagree, blah blah blah, and I was like, well, I'm like, no, you're missing the point. You're
not telling you not to do that.
Yeah, I'm not telling you not to do that, but no, I'm like I actually love them. But so one of the things that I tell everyone whenever we talk about cold plunge is like, it obviously is like a process, right? Like you got if you don't have one, like you got to get one. And if you have one, depending on what type you have, like you got to fill it up. If you don't live somewhere where it's cold, you got to go buy ice or whatever. And I've always said that I think what might be worse than a cold plunge, and I like cold plunge 100 times better, but what might be worse mentally is taking a cold shower. Like,
yeah,
I like tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, you can save the money. You can save the money and build better I always say it as joke, like you can build better mental fortitude is to take a cold shower, because like a cold shower, you're like, I'm like kind of warm, I'm kind of cold, so I feel like
it's awkward.
When you do a cold plunge, I feel like you just dive in. You just dive in and you're like, I've just accepted my fate. But no, I like love them, and I'm like, I feel the same way about cold plunge as I do sauna. Like I personally like really like them. I honestly wish like I had a cool setup. Like I'm gonna probably be really financially irresponsible and get a sauna at my house sometime, because
I've thought about it.
I like love sauna, but same thing with a cold plunge. Like if I had a cool setup, so if anyone wants to sponsor me, someone out there listening, they want to sponsor me. No, if I had a cool setup, like I would probably do it. I would do it all the time, right?
Yeah.
I just think like, I think it's like a similar. I don't know how you feel about this, but I think it's a similar like kind of headspace from a long run, like where I talk about like I feel like really mentally like clear and really focused. Like I don't know how you feel after but I think it's like a similar. It's like a your body's like, hey, you just did something hard, like and you're just kind of like super chill and you're like relaxed and focused. Like I feel like it's kind of a similar thing. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan, but I recently got attacked because I said that you need to exercise for 30 minutes more, you know? So, but no, I really like them. Both that and heat, sauna, I'm a big fan of.
Do you do heat then cold or cold then heat?
So I'm a wuss, and I usually do one or the other, right? I'll do my workout, and then I'll do, I usually try to sit in the sauna like for like 20 minutes or something. But this is so funny. I don't know if you've
where do you get a sauna at?
So I go to the Y.
Okay, yeah.
So they're a Y, and I also got attacked recently because I said that one of the Ys had the hottest sauna out there, and my followers quickly let me know that the other Y had a much hotter sauna. So, but no, like I usually am like one or the other, right? Like again, in a perfect world, I would love to like
do both.
I would love to do both, right? Like I think it'd be cool to like have a sauna. Like I don't know if you've seen those like saunas that people have. They're like a giant like wooden like barrel almost that they have like outside their house or whatever.
I haven't seen the barrel ones.
So it's like a big wooden like just like, I mean like multiple people can fit inside or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're pretty cool. It's like I would love to have one of those.
I feel like it'd be something you could build.
Yeah. I couldn't personally build it.
No, but a handy person could build it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it would be like I think it'd be interesting. Like, and I think like one benefit that we do have here. It sounds silly, but it's like if you had that and you could just like go in the sauna, sit outside if it were like really cold or whatever, right? But there's something that's just way different about being cold, but then just being in the water cold. Like I don't know what it is. It's just totally different.
It is totally different because I was talking to somebody the other day. They're like, "What if I just went outside when it was really cold for a while? Is it the same effect?" I'm like, "Not the same."
No. It's not this. It's not the same. But it's just like this is crazy. So I don't. There's this has got to be like Huberman maybe is where I heard this, or
that guy's wild.
But there's like I don't know who it is, but someone like suggests, because there's like, this is completely off topic, but there's like you have like different types of fat cells or whatever, and some of your fat cells are activated by like different mechanisms or whatever. And I like recently saw like one of the fats, like there's like one of the fat cells like gets like activated or mobilized by like cold exposure or whatever, right? And and also like shivering like triggers this like fat to mobilize or whatever. And like I think it was Huberman was like, he's like, all right, the protocol is you get in a cold plunge or you take a cold shower for it's like you're in there for 30 seconds or a minute. Then you get out and I want you to shiver. And then once you're done shivering, I want you to get back in the cold plunge. And I'm like, dude, I want to enjoy myself. I'm like, I want to enjoy myself. But no, there's like, but there's so many cool things out there. But I think the thing that I go back to, and I think you can probably relate to this, is like, if it feels good and you like it, do it, right? That's how I am with like workouts. Like everyone's always like, hey, what's your favorite, workout or blah, blah, blah. And I tell people, I'm like, I go, you see me do the workouts because I actually, like, I enjoy them or whatever, right? And, like, I think that, yes, I probably, because of my background, what I do, I enjoy working out. Like, I, like, love it. Like, it is something I thoroughly enjoy. But, like, I have anxiety before I go for a run or whatever, right? But, like, I still, like, enjoy the process, and I enjoy, like, what happens afterwards. But, like, if I'm gonna be honest, if I didn't enjoy running, I wouldn't run or whatever, right? So, like, I tell people, it's like, find what you enjoy, and then that's like, you can slowly introduce other stuff. But I tell people all the time, someone's asking about cold plunge or whatever, and I'm like, regardless, I'm like, there is benefits, right? There's 100% benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if there wasn't benefits, I'm like, you feel better and you like to do it. I'm like, why not do it, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with, like, everything in, like, the fitness and health space. Like, if you feel good from it and you feel like there's a benefit, don't really listen to the outside noise, right? Like, like, you can use some common sense. Like, if you like to, go do whatever it is or whatever, and you feel better from it, go and do it, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an underutilized thing that everyone's always looking for, like, the best workout program. It's like, is barbell bench better than, like, dumbbell bench? Like, which one do you like to do more? Like, do you like to do this one more? All right, then go and do that one, right? Like, because you're gonna be I go back to it, like, you're gonna be consistent with it, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like, I'm like, that's where I fall back into everything. Like, and this is maybe a little bit more like, from going back to, like, when you work for yourself or whatever, right? It's like, it's like, I enjoy doing this, so this is what I'm gonna do, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think that people get caught up into what's the best, and it's like, what do you enjoy the most, right?
That could be the best for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not one size fits all thing. Like, I know everyone was doing, like, there's always crazes. Like,
always.
So many different ones. Like, what was the stuff where you'd, like, jump on boxes and all that shit?
Plyometrics.
Not plyometrics, but
CrossFit.
Yeah. People got really into CrossFit for a while, and now I don't hear about it. I know there's still people doing it.
Yeah.
But it was like the thing.
Yeah, it was like the thing, right? And, like, what it was going back to the bang for your buck thing. It was like a very big bang for your buck thing, right?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I'm gonna be in the gym for an hour, and I'm getting stronger, and I'm doing cardio, right? Like,
full body.
I think that was one of the benefits of that, was, like, people realize, like, oh, I can lift and do cardio at the same time, and I get the benefits of both. I think, like, for the longest time we grew up in, you can only get strong or you can only get in better conditioning, right? Like, you can get better at running or whatever it is, but you can't blend the two. Like, now I think CrossFit was, like, a very good hybrid. Yeah, it was a very hybrid introduction to, like, hey, you can do both or whatever, right? But, I think it goes back to, like you said, fads or whatever, right? Like, that was so big, and it's still, like, super big or whatever, but then it's kind of transitioned to people are like, we're not CrossFit, we don't do this, but we're like, we do this, right? So it's like, there's always so many fads or whatever, but, like, I always see like a circle, right? Like, I in the fitness industry, like, I feel like we, like, were in, like, probably, like, like they, back in Arnold, right? It was like, like, lifting and bodybuilding got, like, really, really big and came, like, a little bit more mainstream. And then I feel like 90s was probably a little bit more of, like, the aerobics craze or whatever, that type of stuff. And then I feel like we got in, like, the CrossFit probably. And then I feel like because of TikTok a little bit, like, got really back into, like, at least I see the younger generation, right, is, like, very much into, like, the bodybuilding and, like, physique side or whatever. But I see a lot of the people that, like, we grew up with, or people like me personally, I see it kind of going back to, like, people that were, like, very into lifting and, like, for, like, physique and, like, the bodybuilding side are now going back to more so like me, like, I'm almost all running or whatever. Like, so I see, like, these cycles all the time or whatever, because it goes back to, it's like the shiny object, like, oh, this is new, this is cool, I want to try it. Yeah. But I feel like it's just like a circle, like, and it goes back to just, like, you gotta do what you like, right?
It's like fashion.
Yeah.
It's like it just revolves.
Oh yeah, it's changes. Like I see, like, my high school kids, I'm like, dude, we used to make fun of kids for wearing that in high school or whatever. Like you got that like 90s, you got like that 90s, like I feel like the style now is like
90s.
The 90s look that like we like roast our siblings and each other, be like, dude, we actually wore that. And then
are bowl cuts coming back? I hope bowl cuts.
I don't know. I don't
just to see it.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna do it, but I want to see it.
I was like, I don't know what kind of haircut I got going on right now, but yeah, it is just like fashion. It's just like it changes, and then it like what used to be popular, no longer popular, but what used to be popular a while ago becomes popular. So it's like always changing. I feel like, and it's just. I feel like same thing with supplements, right? Like you see a supplement that everyone's like, this is the greatest supplement ever.
Yeah.
And then you just like don't hear about it because people are like, oh, it's not as great as I thought it was, right? You know?
Yeah.
So.
I've been hearing about fish oil for a while though.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's like, I think the ones that are tried and true, like they stick around, right? They stick around because people know, right? People know. And the ones that are tried and true, a lot of times you see like, it seems like, even more research comes out because they know they know that there's benefits, right? So they'll do the research to try to hone in on like those benefits and what like what benefits they are, and then they find other benefits, right? So then the research goes, and so I think it's one of those things. The supplements that have been proven almost seem to get even more research because it's like we know where some like the newer supplements you don't see get as research because they're like, oh well, we did this research study and we didn't find anything, like we didn't see anything work with it. So it's like, do we really want to do another study to find absolutely nothing, right? Because like the supplement doesn't work, there's no money in it, right? So like they don't want to go and research it again, you know. So, but
that does make sense. So you did bring up you said something about you get anxious before a run, or just workouts in general, or
So I think so. I think like obviously I think everyone thinks like because I like to work out, right? Like it's like, oh, working out's easy.
You're just always in the zone.
Like, I'm just always in the zone. And like I always tell people like I've worked out less since I started like my business and started training, athletes and doing stuff at the gym. That's the least I've ever worked out, right? Because you're like, I spend so much time in the gym, like I don't want to spend not necessarily more time, but I'm like there all the time, so it's like I want to get away or whatever. But I think the thing that's interesting, if I were to go lift, right? If you and me were gonna go lift, I would be like, dude, like I don't need to take pre-workout. I would like to have some caffeine, but I don't need to. I could go like this. Like I could just put my shoes on, put my shorts, go to the gym and just work out, right? Like, and I wouldn't be anxious about it at all. Like it'd be really easy for me. Running is like totally different, right? And I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's because I'm not as good at it. I'm not as good at it, or
do you feel like you run funny? I feel like I run funny.
So I feel like
that throws me off.
I feel like I'm a pretty good runner, but I think for me personally, I feel like I know it's gonna be uncomfortable, right? Like I know there is something about my run that it's gonna be uncomfortable, right? Like whether I get halfway and I'm like, I just don't want to run anymore, or say I have a hard run, so my heart rate's going to be up, so it's legitimately going to be uncomfortable, right? Like it's like so weird. Like I will be like, okay, I'm going to go for a run at 8:00, right? I'm going to wake up and go run at 8:00 or whatever. And I find myself at 8:30 and I'm like staring at my shoes, or like I haven't put my socks on or whatever. And and I'm just like procrastinating, right? And it's like I heard the quote, it's like, procrastination is not like, it's like you're not being lazy. It's just you're putting off the uncomfortable feeling that task brings, right?
Yeah.
And
it's fear-based.
Yeah, so it's like one of those things, like for me, it's like I mean I still have it. Like I run 5 days a week, and I would consider myself to be like a decent runner. Like I would consider myself to be a decent runner now. But like no matter what, like I ran today and I was like, I don't really want to run. Like I have this feeling, and it's like I don't know what it is necessarily that causes me to have that, right? I think it's just because it's not easy, right? Like that's where I'm like I feel like a motivational David Goggins type of guy when I talk about this, but like I think there's something to doing stuff that makes you uncomfortable, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like,
that's why I started doing the polar plunges. Like
it's like, and I think that's what running is for me, right? I think that's And because of that, like, I get anxious about it, but I also know that the reward that I get out of it is going to be so good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's like a weird feeling that, like,
is that how you talk yourself into it?
Yeah, I think I'm very much someone that I'm like, if I have it, that I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how I am. But like, I go back to, like, it's kind of almost like, like, if I have this task of stuff I have, whatever, it's like, I'm gonna go run, and then when I get done running, I'm just gonna crush this task, whatever. And so I don't know if it's like a combination of everything, but I'm like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. But it's weird, right? Like, it's something that has almost like made me a better trainer because, again, like I said, I don't get anxious. Like, going to the gym does not make me anxious or whatever, right? And that's not something that I didn't realize people had until I started training people. That, like, I'll get clients like, hey, I'm really nervous or whatever, right? And if you know me or ever train with me, like, I want you to enjoy it, right? So I want to be very not intimidating, but it's been something that's, like, interesting because I just haven't had that feeling with other types of working out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's like
it gave you that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's just doing something hard, right? It's like hard to, like, do the Freshly brothers, do they get shout out Dan and Steven, do they get anxious, like, going for a run? Like, they might not, right? Like,
animals.
Like, they're beasts, but, like, I think it's just something that it's, like, uncomfortable for me, and I'm not, like, amazing at it, or it's hard that, like, I don't know if, like, you feel that way when you do stand-up or whatever, right? Like, where you're, like, have that little bit of anxious feeling, or, like...
It depends, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah.
And it's honestly, like, some days it's, like, like, if I feel like if everything's aligned or whatever, but I feel like I get it. It's almost like you get it more when you absolutely do not want to do it, right? Like, when you're, like, you wake up and you're like, I wanted to run at 8, and now it's 9:30 because I slept in, and you're like... You're like, dude, I could just walk out there and run, but I like push it off even further, and you're like, dude, why didn't I just go run when I woke up, right? But I think it's like gets worse when I really, you know what I mean? It's like when it's really gonna be uncomfortable and you really don't want to do it. That's when it almost gets worse or whatever. But I think it's just like an uncomfortable thing. I don't know, but I like it in the sense that you're like, I've something so simple to me, like, like, to me, I think running such a, like. It's like such a simple thing. Like, you just go out and you do it and you come back, whatever, right? And I don't care how fast you do it or how.
Yeah.
But again, going back to, like, the motivational side, you're like, when you do something like that, like, later on in the day when you have something that is a little bit difficult, you're like, well, dude, I already did this thing that already made me super uncomfortable or made me a little uncomfortable. I can just go do this thing, right?
Yeah, it makes everything else a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something I've been really like I said, I think it's cool because I've been working out for so long and haven't had that feeling, and I think it really has made me better at other stuff that I would normally put out, and I'm like, dude, I'll knock it out because I already knocked this out, right? Yeah. So that's I don't know why I necessarily feel that, but I think it's definitely from the uncomfortable versus, like, something I'm not used to.
Yeah, one of the sayings I've heard is it's actually a recovery saying from going to, like, recovery meetings is. Get more comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%, right? It's like, it's, I mean, there's no true statement, but I feel like if you can do that, like, it's just like, it goes into other aspects of your life, right? Like, you do that, and, like, we talked the social media thing, like, you do that, and you're like, I don't really want to talk on camera, but, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't really have a problem talking on camera, but you're like, yeah, but I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And you're like, you know what? I'm just going to do it, right?
This is cringe.
Yeah, dude. I'm so over the cringe part. I'm like, dude, I'm going to look stupid. My high school kids are going to roast me. Like, it's like
what aren't they going to roast you?
Dude, it's like I wear, it's like I wear shoes that they think are cool. Like, dude, your shoes are so awesome, whatever, right? But, like, those were a lot cooler a couple months ago, right? And you're like, but those are sweet shoes. And then you're like, I wear these other shoes that are, like, quote unquote, like, coming into style, whatever. And, like, dude, those shoes, like, you look like a grandpa wearing those shoes, right? It's like, dude, you're gonna get mad no matter what I do, so I'm just gonna accept them and do whatever I want, right?
The trolls are gonna be there no matter what.
Yeah,
whether it's,
exactly.
Whether it's your high school kids or someone. The YouTube short comments, man, those are the worst comments I've gotten.
Those are. It's like
those are next level.
Well, it's like weird because I didn't grow up watching, like, I've never been like a click on a YouTuber and, like, watch it or whatever. I just like never did that or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then like, so I've never been one to like. Usually, if I go to YouTube, it's for something specific. Like I want to watch like a specific video, or I'm searching up something specific, like whatever. But like, it's ruthless. Like it'll be stuff like it'll be stuff that I'm like, no one can possibly make a negative comment about this, right? And it'll be like the most absurd negative comment ever. And you're like, that's actually like kind of creative that you came up with that, but like. I don't know where that came from, whatever, right? Like,
are you trolling or are you being serious? It's just like, there could be 100 positive comments, then there's just that one guy.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's like I got accused of that video I was telling you about that went like pretty viral. That was like it was like 1 million, and I think like
what was the video about?
So it was about like just mistakes that you make as like an athlete, or whatever, right?
Okay.
It was just like a mistakes that you make as an athlete, and there's like a very simple like video, whatever. And it got like 1 million views or whatever, and I got accused of using fake weights. Like, it wasn't even me in the video. It was one of my athletes. It was a college athlete. Kid's an animal, right? Like, one of the strongest kids I've ever trained. And they're, like, accusing me of using fake weights, right? It's like, I work at a gym. We're, like, trying to make athletes better. Like, why would I ever use fake weights, or right?
That'd be terrible.
And it's, like, so funny because it goes back to, like, the 100 comments. It's, like, I think I got, like, 300 comments on the video, right? It's, like, I got 100 of those 300 comments were probably, or we'll say probably 50, were like negative, accusing me of using fake weights or whatever. Then there's those other 250 that were like super positive, like, dude, this kid's such a badass. Like, this is awesome, blah, blah. But you like focus on the negative ones. You're like, dude, I'm not using fake weights or whatever. And you're like,
what do I have to do to prove to these guys?
And the thing is, like, you can't, like, that's the other thing I laugh about. Is like, you can't even, like, I mean, I have my buddies.
Can't
like,
feed the trolls.
Like, like, my buddies give me crap about certain stuff. Like,
that's different.
And it's like, dude, like, and you have these, it's like, dude, you can't even listen because you could do like the best thing in the world, and like the trolls are gonna be trolls, right? Like,
it doesn't matter, dude.
It doesn't matter.
Matter.
Like it can be something beneficial that's gonna help them. There's people out there that they're gonna troll it still. You know what I mean? Like, and I think a lot of people like don't like if you ever gone to a high school game, it's kind of funny. Like, you'll get like parents, like. You know, like they'll get the student section and they'll get like parents that will like get into it, right? Like at a game or whatever, right? Like, and it's like, I'm like looking at the parents, I'm like, dude, these are high school kids. Like, they live to troll, right? Like, it's like nothing you say is going to cause them to stop, right? So it's like, I just like laugh. It's like, dude, like nothing you say is going to get them to stop. They're just going to troll because they want to troll and they find it funny or whatever, right? So it's like no different than social media. Like, people are going to say whatever they want, so you just got to accept it.
We were, dude, thinking of our student sections. Oh, man, I was all about that. I was always one of the main people, like, doing all that crazy shit. Yeah.
No, it's always
savage.
It's always funny, like, the stuff that it's like, hey.
They can't do some of the themes that we used to
do. Oh, yeah. Like, it's like funny now because I look at some, like, dude, they're high school kids. They're going to do what they want to do. They're there to have fun or whatever. They don't mean anything bad. They're probably the kid that they're talking crap to or whatever, right? They're probably hanging out with that kid outside of the game, right? It's like they're just like razzing them during the game or whatever. And I see people like get upset or whatever, or like people come over and yell at you. I'm like, dude, this is just, you're going to lose the battle. Like, you're going to lose the battle because they don't care.
They don't care at all.
Nope.
So what's the biggest challenge with training kids in general? The personalities, or I feel like I like, that's one thing that I feel like I do really well is like, I feel like I'm really good at reading. I feel like I'm really good at reading kids, right? Like, I feel like I'm really good at getting the most out of my athletes, right? And I think a little bit of that comes to like going back to where I'm like, hey, like, there's just certain battles that I'm just not willing to, like, I'm just not going to fight or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, it's like if a kid does absolutely not want to do this, it's like there's rigidity in the rigid. I don't. There's rigidness. That's rigidness too. Yeah. Wow. There's rigidness to our schedule and the plan, but the reality is like there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. So like there's certain battles that I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna fight this. This is what we're gonna do. And so I can switch it up and pivot and be adaptive. But I think one of the things that the biggest challenge I see, and this is probably more so middle schoolers and younger high school kids, is just like you don't know what you're gonna get. Like, you can get a kid that is
that never messes around, right? Like he is just always on it. And then one day he's like the worst human of all time, whatever, right?
Just an ass.
Just like, not even like he's like
mean,
he's just
grumpy.
not gonna do. I mean, like I like love all my kids. Like I get along, but like they're just gonna mess around. They're gonna be middle schoolers, right? They're gonna be middle schoolers. So that's like the hardest thing is like some days they come in and they're on it, right? And then other days they're just like not gonna be on it, right? And so like I think that's probably like one of the hardest things is like not knowing what you're gonna get out of them, right? Like it's like
gamble.
Yeah, it's like I have kids that's like he is so good, but once a year, guaranteed. It's I've been training since he's like middle school, guaranteed once a year. He is literally going to be the worst human being of all time. He's not going to do anything bad, but he's going to be messing around. He's going to be egging on the younger kids to be messing around or whatever, right? And like it's not even like he's not that bad. Like he's not like really doing anything wrong. He's just like messing around or whatever, right? And then like the other 11 months and however many days he comes in and works out, no problem, whatever. So that's like I think like the biggest challenge is like there's just some days where you're like it's going to be controlled chaos, right? It's always controlled chaos, but there's just like some days that you're like, I'm just willing to accept that no matter what I tell them, they're just going to do their own thing, right? Like, and not like actually do their own thing. Like they're going to get their workout done.
You have to accept it.
But I think that's where I'll say one of the reasons that's made me, I think, so successful with the athletes is that I'm adaptable, right? Like yes, there's a certain way that I do stuff, but like it's not the Bible. It's not exactly what has to be done. We can go off topic and switch it up, but I think there's a lot of coaches that are like, this is what we're doing, right? This is how we're gonna do it. And I'm like,
if you don't like it, then
like kids just like don't work like that, right? But I think it's like a compromise, right? Like,
make a deal here.
Yeah, it's like make a deal. It's like, hey, if you do this, I will let you do this, right? And so I think that's what I've been really, like, I think coaches get caught up in like the music that they listen to and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? You guys can listen to whatever you want because I know as soon as you get into your car, you're listening to whatever you want anyways, right? So there's just like certain battles that I just don't pick, right? So I think I'm pretty good about like picking certain battles, but I also think I'm pretty good about like pushing certain buttons to get kids like to where they want to be, right? Like to get the most out of them. But definitely the hardest part is like you just don't know what you're gonna get some days, right? Like, and like I said, I love all my kids. They're just like, you're just like, where did this kid come from, or whatever, right? Like, and there's like certain ages.
They're evolving, they're changing.
Yeah, there's just certain ages that I know. I'm like, gosh, like you're the greatest kid ever. Like you never do anything wrong. And I'm like, in 3 months when you're a freshman in high school, you're gonna actually be terrible. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna get better freshman year, and then when you're a sophomore, you're no longer the youngest person in the school, so you think you're some hot shot. You're gonna have like a 2-month period where you're terrible again, right? Like, so it's just like you just never know what you're gonna get with them, which that's also what makes it fun, right?
It's
like,
interesting.
It makes it the hardest part, but also makes it the fun part. So
that totally beats sitting at a desk.
There's the pros and cons to it.
No, there's pros and cons to it. Yeah, but like that, you're not dealing with the same thing every day.
Yeah.
I sit at a desk and I don't deal with the same thing every day because I'm in customer service. So I'm dealing with. Yeah, and I deal with the spicy calls, as I call them, like people that are angry. So
exactly.
You never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. Mine is, like my favorite is like I'm like with kids. I'm like, dude, can you like? I have certain kids. I'm like, so what am I getting today? Like, am I gonna get the kid that like came in?
Who's here today?
Yeah, who's here today? Am I getting the kid that's fully prepared? That's got his shoes. He changing his clothes, or like, am I getting the kid that's still wearing his polos and khakis from school today and is going to do absolutely nothing? Like, what kid am I going to, what kid am I getting, So it's fun, but it makes it interesting. So,
yeah.
But
anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up here? We're right at that time. So,
I don't know. Any other questions or any other,
there was I don't even know there was a comment that that was a funny comment that was one of your high school kids that said, and you should say somebody else, but who your favorite 6'3" athlete is that you train? You know exactly.
I know exactly who's asking this. And I'm not giving him the satisfaction of saying their name. So
good.
I'm not gonna say it, but I will say I know this athlete. He is probably gonna play 2K from now until about 3 a.m. So I'm not gonna use a name, but I know it's exactly what he's gonna do for the next about 6-7 hours, so he can give himself the satisfaction that I said that. But I know that's the athlete that asked it for sure, 100%.
2K. So he's a basketball player.
Yeah, basketball player. Yeah. So,
gotta love it. Yeah, we're not giving you names. We're not tagging you either, dude.
No, absolutely. We don't. You're not getting that satisfaction.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah.
It was a good talk. We got to talk about a lot of stuff, and yeah. I love talking about the physical and the mental aspect of working out and just moving and doing stuff that challenges you and makes you more uncomfortable, because it's going to make those other situations that much easier to deal with.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Awesome.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been awesome. Well, we'll get it wrapped up. Until next time, this has been the Modern Day Overthinker podcast, episode number 80. Thank you.